The 50th anniversary of the March on Washington is quite a moment, a time to reflect on what it took for those men and women to come together, a moment to think of where we are today. When you think of this important date, it's hard not to think of the historic connection between transportation and the civil rights movement. This year, HART is especially honored to feature local community leaders that followed in Rosa Parks' footsteps by participating in the March on Washington and leading the charge for equality.
Well, it was, I would say, a continuation of my involvement in the civil rights movement. It was a very moving and inspiring experience. We took a pledge at the March on Washington to go back to our various communities and work for civil rights and human rights. And it was something I think I passed on to my children as they grew up. They knew about my involvement in civil rights.
How I got to Washington, D.C. and being able to participate in the march some 50 years ago, is I was a young soldier in the military stationed at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, which is about 12 miles outside of Washington, D.C. And my unit was tasked to go into D.C. along with several other soldiers to provide protection. There was some sense that there was going to be mass rioting and what have you during this historic event. And clearly it did not turn out that way. I think it's a legacy that everyone should have an understanding of, and having the opportunity to share that story with everyone is so important, especially for our young students in school coming up, so they will understand what type of struggles and events that have given them the opportunities that they have today.
Being a part of 250,000 people who had gathered in Washington, the largest demonstration of its kind up to that point, was a very inspiring moment. I think it has had a lasting impact on me. I've continued to be interested in problems of human rights, and in my job and in my other work, I've tried to keep this in mind all through the years.
This was quite a moment in our country's history, 50 years after the March on Washington, a moment for us to reflect on what it took these people to come to Washington on that day, despite all the challenges they faced. And it allows us to reflect on where we are today on such an important date.
Well, the civil rights movement and the bus, the important thing about the bus is it provides transportation. That's number one. And before we talk about Rosa Parks, there was also a bus boycott several years prior to that. And that was the beginning of everyone saying we want equal opportunity. So the bus really started a tremendous civil rights movement, and it was because of the bus. And I just see how it was very much a correlation of how people got to work, how they got to church, how they got to other activities in their lives. So transportation has always been one of the hubs of, I think, and you have really joined and connected the civil rights movement. Rosa Parks has been a wonderful example of what it is about standing up for your rights and understanding. And she'll tell you, if she were alive today, to say, you know, the reason why I just didn't want to move because my feet hurt. I've been working all day, and I just was not going to move off to go to the back of the bus. And that began the whole impact of what Rosa Parks had on transportation and the civil rights movement.
Looking back at 1963 and thinking about what role HART plays in connecting Hillsborough County residents every day, it makes us think that even before the March on Washington, this country was framing the path of freedom in relation to the importance of transportation.
Well, it is so important for transportation to understand its role, not only then, but today. And young people should understand how important transportation is to get them where they want to go. And as they look back and remember history, and I always tell folks, never forget history, because it's so important, and transportation will continue to play a tremendous role in a lot of folks' lives as we look at how transportation and how folks are increasing. We cannot build enough lanes of highways to support the growth in our communities. And so it's going to become more and more important. And I'm encouraging young people to understand what transportation has meant to this country and what it will continue to mean to them and their families as they grow.
Well, I'm not sure that young people really understand what life was like in 1963 and before. So I have gone around to schools talking about my experiences in the civil rights movement, trying to give the young people an idea of what it was like then and how things have changed for the better.